Okay, back. Sorta. So, like, the deal that I'm trying to get at is that with a percentage-based system, you technically need less items and less system, like, components. Because there's less of a range of resistances, always. There's a lesser range of percentages than there are discrete units available for a flat system. And this is obvious whenever you consider, like, there's only increments between 1 and 100 in a percentage system. There is no upper limit on discrete units in a flat system or non-percentage at a minimum system. That's kind of the real big issue there, is that whenever you're getting into the concept of a flat system, that can necessitate more items. Though if you treat... I feel like that's one of those things that is only a problem if you treat gear like a turnstile. Like, if there is a gear turnstile in your game, and by that I mean, like, oh, I get to this part of the game, I need X, Y, Z aspects of my gear to compensate, thus I need, A, B, C set of gear. It's that kind of thing, like, but that seemingly ends up happening in most games with a percentage system anyway. Games like Warframe are a bit weird. In general, Warframe's a very cool game, but it's a very weird game. Which is probably why I've played it so much in my life, but... If you're talking about a game that isn't like Warframe, right? Like a standard game like this, or any, like, RPG where you have a beginning and an end, and there's not really, like, a multi-year-long series of content islands that are added to the game you get what I'm saying? Like, if you're talking about a game like this, or Diablo, or Elden Ring, or even like the Ultima series, I've never played them. I've watched Let's Plays of them by a great Let's Player, Kakaskia. I've watched that guy for years. His stuff's great. But like, or even like the Wizardry series. I haven't played much of the Wizardry games. I played Wizardry 8 and kind of got burnt out on it halfway through because of how that game's combat and scaling works. That game has a treadmill, alright, a bad one that gets steeper the further you go on it. But, yeah, the thing that's kind of causing me to hitch a bit is that, to like pause here, is that I'm considering all of the different configurations in which you could argue that a percentage-based system and a flat system may have the same rough amount of system components and still be similar. And the real kicker is like length, and the real kicker is like length in any direction of like extension. So the way in which this game extends its length, right, beyond the flat, like, because, obviously it has normal difficulty, which you can play on veteran like I've been doing for this playthrough. But, like, once you finish your playthrough on that difficulty, you can take that same character, Diablo style, to the next tier of difficulty and onward, right? That's kind of what I mean by length extension. When we're talking about something like, and to bring Warframe into this, like in Warframe, the armor system is where you get the percentage-based problem, right? And in Elden Ring, you get it by the time you get to, I would say, Lanedale Royal Capital is the last place in the game where the balance feels like it was good up to that point for a percentage system, and then just kind of went sideways as soon as you get into, I always consider it part of the Mountaintops of the Giants, but I know it's actually not. It's like some other... I can't see crap, Captain. Maybe I need to turn the brightness up on my... Yeah, there we go. At least for this area. I like to keep the brightness down on my laptop so that I'm not staring at an active light bulb. But, you know, well, I mean, you are regardless, but so that I'm not personally staring at an even brighter light bulb than I need to. But in that instance, right, like, it feels to me in Elden Ring like everything past Lanedale Royal Capital was stuff that was not played by the developers. I'll put it just bluntly. If anyone on the QA team played past Lanedale Royal Capital, I don't know what to say. I think it's ridiculous that you can have 60 vigor and some sets of light armor and still get, like, nearly one shot. I think it's kind of a bad sign in any game when the fan base or just the player base in general tells you you need to level up, like whenever it's an honest to goodness considered normal thing to max out your health. That seems busted. Like, if you're playing through a normal run of a game and it's like a Souls-like where you can level different parts of your character. And I know that the Souls-likes weren't the first games to do this, but I'm just using it as an example. That it's like, as in a Souls-like, where you can level up different aspects of your character. That it's deemed a necessity to level HP gains to the cap. That, for the normal course of the game, that sounds bad. Like, that sounds like your design has really kind of... You know, it's not like, oh, if you want the game to be easier, it's like, if you don't do that, you're doing something wrong. You know, that to me is just a very loud, very obvious siren screaming at you that your balance is off. But again, the reason why is inherent to what extension does to that, right? Like, it's so much harder to account for that limited range in which a percentage system will, like a primarily percentage-based system, because I mean, this game also, I think, has, yeah, I think this game does have... Yeah, okay, so that's just physical attacks, I guess. So this game technically does have kind of a mixed system. But... So even if it is a mixed system, a predominantly percentage-based system. Like, the problem is that you're dealing with a limited set, like a limited scope of the defense mechanism interacting with an unlimited scoping damage mechanism. I was trying to think of a better term for it, but offense mechanism really didn't match there. But I think you get the idea that percentages are limited in scope from 0 to 100%, and 100% is unfeasible because that would make you immune. Infeasible because it would make you immune. And there's tricks that each game with the percentage-based thing, the percentage resistances, tries to... Like, there's always these tricks that dev teams use and try to get the system to work with that discrepancy between the capacity of the scope of percentages to work... how to put it? To work like... To work, smoothly. Yeah, I think that's probably the best word for it, is smoothly, with the unlimited scope of the discrete units of damage. Because that's the thing, is the health is never a percentage. I mean, there are games in which attacks do percentages of your total health, but then you're just kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of what is a percentage then. If it's just all percentages, then it's all, you know, units of 100 or whatever. But, yeah, I mean, that would just be an entirely percentage-based system if there weren't any discrete units involved and everything was some percent of this or some percent of the other. It would also be a very confusing, convoluted, and just outright, dim, I think, if you're going for a game that has a length past a certain point. You're better off just doing a mixed system anyway at that point, right? Mixed in the sense of not defenses or resistances, but mixed discrete offensive systems and percentage-based defensive, or predominantly percentage-based defensive systems. But yeah, you have to kind of reconcile that problem where 90 defense at level 1 and 90 defense at level 90 are not going to be the same amount of defense by several orders of magnitude if the difference in damage is also several orders of magnitude higher. So you have to either let the player character get several orders of magnitude more HP and just scale everything up anyway, which in that case you really should have just went with the flat system, because at least then you can fine-tune things to within a certain set of parameters, right? Like where you can go, okay, well, the reason why I'm saying that is because, to get back to what I was originally off on this section of this tangent about, is that those tricks that they use, you've seen the graphs probably if you ever go look at like an Elden Ring defense chart, or even if you've played Elden Ring. I use that because it's such a widely played game and widely understood game that has this. You'll know that, like, okay, if you equip the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman, or whatever it's called, the plus ridiculous amount of physical resistance, if you already have 50% resistance to physical, what it'll do is give you a significantly less of a bonus than if you had on your base armor. Like, if you have like 20%, it'll bump you up to like 30-something% or whatever, but if you have 40% or 36% or whatever, it'll give you like an extra 4% instead, that kind of thing. Like those kind of tricks where they use, I'm not sure what the actual mathematical term would be, but I think of them as like rounding curves, where the closer you get, you've seen the, like I said, if you look at a graph, it's like a funky sort of graph where it goes up linearly and then sort of starts getting wonky towards the back end. It's that kind of thing, where it goes up linearly for like a little bit and then starts leveling out or whatever. So you never get to 100% is what I'm getting at. And the reason why they do that is because obviously you can't get to 100%, but the problem with that is that you end up with situations where, okay, your percentage scope can't handle the difference of, like, say character A starts at level 1, he's taking 10 damage, and he has 90%, so out of his, like, 20 HP, he's only taking like 5% of his health each time he takes damage from the 10 damage source, right? That quickly becomes untenable when their HP doesn't get above like 1500 at level 80, but the monsters at level 80 are doing like freaking 400, 500, 600 damage. You know, some of them, like the bosses, are doing 1000 damage, 900 damage a hit. And then you can kind of see the lopsidedness of that system, and the only way you really try to fix that is then you go in, you know, with your game dev scalpel, and you start tinkering around with, okay, well, what if we increase the capacity for HP by this point in the game by this much, or by this much? And then it's really like, well, why not just switch to a discrete unit system in the first place and skip all the mess? Because the thing that really gets me about the percentage shortcut, and I get the advantages and disadvantages, again, I could make a whole, like, and I probably should just sit down and write out and structure like an actual video to itself of me talking about this and like graphing it and showing what I mean with examples, so there's a less of like a unscripted, off-the-cuff me just kind of rambling about it instance. But the secret is like, okay, man, but you still have percentages regardless, so why not just skip the limited scope percentage system and go with the much more high fidelity infinite scope discrete unit system, and then tune right within that the percentages you want, right? Like, you can tier the gear that's available by, or not even gear, like you can make it instead where it's a system of like upgrade slots, right? And make sure that you can only have so many slots in your gear by X point in the game or whatever, and that the upgrades that you can have that are interchangeable are only available by and then instead of like coming up with entirely new armor sets, you could just have a base set of armor sets with like these little PNGs that you design, that maybe they look cool and maybe they have like a paragraph of lore behind them or whatever, but instead you can just have like this rotating set of .pngs or whatever that you then slot into your armor and don't need to have a physical presence in the game, and you know, there you go. You still have your percentage system, sort of, just kind of given through equivalency by gatekeeping of resources in certain points in the game. And then it's okay if like just put in something like, oh, you take a minimum of 1 damage, or you take a minimum of whatever damage, and that should be in your game anyway regardless. And many percentage-based systems still have that anyway, that like you still always take a minimum of 1 damage, even if you can't even theoretically in normal gameplay reach 100%. There's still games that's the case, and they ensure that there's a 1, you know, like a 1 damage minimum. You know, that kind of deal. That's kind of my biggest gripe with the percentage system is that, with all of that said, it does eventually come down to the same thing. But it's a problem of scoping, because whenever you go with percentages as the medium, as the mechanic, you end up with this like nasty problem where, like I said, Elden Ring is just such a good example of it, because it's so obvious that that's what happened with that game's balance. Like, I mean, to me at least, it's as soon as you leave Leyndell Royal Capital. For some other people, it's like once you get to Mount Gelmir, it can really depend on your build and how you typically build your characters, and it can honestly depend from character to character how quickly that kicks in. But yeah, man, and the thing with this game that tries to answer that is that your max resistances are lowered, right, in the higher difficulties, but then there's ways where you can increase your max resistances to stuff, and to me it's like, okay, well, why not just gatekeep certain. I mean, again, there's a discrete. I'm sure there's a discrete unit system that could have been implemented that would have had an elegant answer to that question of how do we handle the next tiers of difficulty that would have been a little less, like, you know, annoying than dealing with percentage systems and their, like, the drawbacks of a percentage system. Because I mean, it does happen in this game where, like, at the higher levels and dealing with higher level stuff, if I can get out of this catacomb, that would be great. I turned my screen brightness back down. I mean, that's like the one thing that I can say that I don't even dislike about this game. Obviously, I like it a lot. I'm just saying that it is a thing in this game that I dislike in other games, and that in this game is implemented well enough that I don't really mind it. It's just that it does kind of remind me, like, at times, oh yeah, this is a percentage-based system that has, like, some of the drawbacks of that. Whenever you go through on higher difficulties, or whenever you get into higher reaches of the game, and you have to worry about your resistances more. Because again, whenever you're dealing with the higher the amount of the discrete units of damage that's coming your way, the more each percent individually matters. I mean, that sounds obvious, but again, it really does warrant, like so many other simple things in life, sitting with and really deeply thinking on for a moment, like how that plays out in every single encounter. You know, over a long arc, how that plays out. In Elden Ring, the thing that really makes that busted is whenever you get to, and I think it is singularly, I haven't played all of the DLC, but I think it's singularly the worst designed boss in all of Souls-like history, like all of FromSoft's design history. Melania, and I'm not complaining because the boss is difficult. I've beaten the boss enough times, both quote-unquote legit and with quote-unquote cheesing, that I don't, you know, it's not the sheer difficulty of the boss. I mean, I think some of its mechanics, like her stupid waterfowl dance, are just, it's like, why? You know, that's whatever. But the single thing that makes that boss terrible is the percentage-based recovery on attack connection, irrespective of whether or not you blocked. I think that is solely the worst because it offers zero counterplay, is percentage-based, and shows immediately what the problem with percentage-based anything is without, like, very, very, very careful scrutiny and consideration and what I like to call head work around, like, how it's implemented. Because Melania, her thing with that stupid effect that she has is so bad that you can have a boss in one move within a 5-second span recoup all of its health through a block for reasons that don't even make sense in the lore. Like, it doesn't make sense that it works that way in the lore. Like, nothing about Scarlet Rot would conceivably confer the ability to leech health through a slab of metal or wood or leather or what have you. It doesn't make sense at all that, oh, I hit your shield, therefore I hit you, therefore I take a percentage of health back. That's just offensively bad. But again, it's the percentage thing of, even if it were just discrete units, it wouldn't be so bad. Like, if it was just 100 health or 500 health or whatever, it wouldn't be that bad, simply because it would be a non-percentage, like, like, it wouldn't scale to people being added to the boss, right? Because the boss's health scales, and so too, as a result, does the freaking life leech. And that's super bad. Whenever you're talking about hundreds of thousands of health and a percentage-based recovery, we're talking about, like, the more health, I mean, it works in the universe, right? That the more health, and that's one of the things that often makes life leech, as it works normally in games, and it normally does work on a percentage basis, that makes percentage life leech like one of the best utilities in gaming for that reason. And to give that to a boss that can attack conceivably like 10 times in the span of 2 seconds is ridiculous. As in the literal usage of the term, it's worthy of ridicule. Yeah, thank you for listening to my TED Talk on percentage resistances versus discrete unit resistances as systems. It's stuff I like to think about a lot, you know, like whenever I'm playing games, if it wasn't obvious. Mainly because it's something that if I were to ever personally design a game, and I'm not saying I ever will, I've got way too much on my plate, and honestly, the stuff I have on my plate, I'm not willing to, as fun and as cool and as awesome as it would be to try to design my own game. I don't think I have the, like, artistic talent for that, and also, like, the stuff that I have to do, you know, the stuff that I'm doing I feel I have to do, and like other stuff is behind that, you know, like personal vanity projects are kind of behind that in the stack, if you will, right? Not saying that game design is a personal vanity project. I'm saying that if I were to do it, it would fall under that category for me, you know. There are people in life whose calling it is to make video games, and God bless them. Like, genuinely and unironically, God bless you for that. Like, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing, I don't think. So, you know. I would like to eventually try, but I've got a lot of stuff I gotta do first. But if and when I do, right, these are things that I would like to keep in mind. And also things I just kind of like to think about, because that's just how my brain works. I like to, it's like feeding, you know, raw steak to a gator. I just throw my brain something and like to let it chew on stuff. And this is one of those things, right? Like, because it does warrant thought that discrete unit systems do devolve into, in a form or fashion, percentage systems anyway. It's just higher fidelity, right? I mean, again, it's like how if you have a volume slider that goes from 0 to 500, and you reduce it from 500 to 250, you have reduced it by 50%, but you can see the individual discrete units in between 0 and 500, right? So it's a higher fidelity of... I think you get the idea. It's just you have finer tuning on it. It's like the difference between a knob that has, you know, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and a knob that has like 0 through 100 or 0 through, you know, 1,000. Like, you have, it's all still technically percentages of, but like at least you have the higher fidelity rather than the naked like 0 to 100 or 0 to 10. As you can see, we're getting into the part where we're dealing with chthonics again. I'm pretty sure this is the point at which we will be dealing with predominantly chthonic enemies for the rest of the main campaign. Like, I keep saying main campaign, I mean original campaign. It's all the main campaign. Like, it's all the main quest, but through the original, like, non-DLC campaign. And what started me off on all of that, I do remember, is my comments on how, like, the end of the game, kind of makes me think the end of the, again, original game. This isn't, like, the actual end of the greater quote-unquote game, as there's a lot more game, a lot more game, actually, in the DLC. Like, a lot more game. Yeah, I think the original ending to the game is really good. I mean, the art style and the sound design and the theming of this game are all really great. The writing's great. Like I said enough times, I don't have enough good things to say about it. But really what gets me about the last area taking place, like the last segment of the game taking place in this area, in the necropolis, and the art design around it, is that it's, and not to get too artsy-fartsy with you, but that it, you know, you start off in Devil's Crossing with the sort of gloom and doom of you in a, you just having been hanged, for one thing, outside of a run-down, bombed out, it looks like, old prison, with this ragtag group of survivors. And now you're here in this almost, I mean, this is almost like Great Wonder of the World sized, the necropolis. I mean, it really is like this giant literal monument, mausoleum thing this old, spooky, you know, literal necropolis. It just kind of fits with the large stoneworks and the sort of downcast vibe of everything that you're going through this area that feels very foreboding, very final area-y. It has this, and I mean, it has finality because it's literally a freaking necropolis. I mean, anywhere... Saying that a graveyard has a sense of finality isn't really, I mean, right? Like, that's kind of like saying an egg has a sense of, like, potential as a metaphor, right? It's kind of obvious. But still, it's done well. It's not ham-fisted. You're not really looking at something that seems out of place or, like, weird for the setting. And it just hit me how good it is that you don't fight the undead here. Like, undead in a necropolis, right, seems like the obvious go-to, but it is good that you... I mean, you do fight the undead in parts of it. We just fought ghouls and such in the Black Sepulchre, but... Oh, stretching. Oh, goodness. What I mean is that as the main forces of the main causeway, the main area, you don't fight the undead, you fight the actual primary opposition and primary antagonists of the, or at least one of the primary, would you call them like, because I'm pretty sure if you called equal protagonist deuteragonists, right? Would these like be deuterantagonists? Right? The chthonics and the ethereals? But regardless, where you're fighting one of the enemy forces, like one of the primary enemy forces, that isn't the undead. Which is very fitting. Like, that you're in this place of sort of, maybe not reverence, but it does feel like a place that wasn't exactly busy, right? Like this sort of, again, this wonder of the world kind of feel, this mega structure that wasn't perhaps an actively inhabited is a strange word, but like an actively maintained, actively occupied area. Sort of like an area that maybe people took their dead to, but wasn't a place where you wouldn't have a lot of people going very often. And again, whether or not people took their dead to this place after the dead that were interred here were interred is also a question, because as hinted at in the, and as I said, was not even hinted, but as was stated in the first note about this area, like, this was built almost as a war memorial to inter war dead from a massive conflict. So whether or not this was even a place that people could normally visit is a bit, you know. By the way, I'm trying to remember what I had planned for the development of this character at this point. I think it was just like, well, I'm actually going to need this leveled up a bit, so I'll put 1 point into that. And then 2 points into Deadly Momentum. Yes. Let's finish off the crane. Yeah, we're not a shield user, so... Okay, we gotta go back and get that put into the purple so that we can get into crab. What was I saying last? Oh yeah, that it's very thematic. The foreboding theme of it, the fact that you're not fighting just undead, you're because it wouldn't really make sense. I'm not saying it wouldn't make sense in a like. It never makes sense that there's undead in an abandoned mausoleum, or maybe not abandoned, but in a. It doesn't make sense that there's undead in this quiet, megalithic funerary structure. Like, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that in this game, it feels apropos that you're not fighting undead. Like, within the theming of and the flow of the game so far, it feels apropos that that's where you fight the Chthonics, and that it's the kind of environment where you fight them, and that also you're not fighting, like, hordes of undead as the final enemy and all that other stuff.
Clear your mind of regrets.
Okay.
Well,
Now let's put that into purple. The, if I remember right, Ascension? Yes, Ascendant. Soon it will be time for Crab. Okay, the next one is in Tomb of the Watchers. This is good. I am excited for Crab. As should we all. Crab is very good. Very fond of Crab. Okay. Let's get back. All the way up here. Also, again, the world map. I kind of hope that in the new DLC that they do something with all of this, because it just feels so... I mean, on the one hand, I'm never against that. I do like in games where you can have an imagined Outer Wilds kind of aspect to the world map, or to the greater context, like in Dishonored. I don't think I even played the first one, but in Dishonored, I did watch a Let's Play of it. How the mainland, like the notes and the talk about what was on the mainland was just, like, really cool. You know, that kind of thing. Or how in Path of Exile 1, the first one, how you get told about the, I forget the name of the island that your guy's from, that they were exiled from, how you kind of pick up snippets about how that place is and what it looks like and all of that, and then you actually go there and it's all kind of ruined. Okay, so we should be getting close to the next, going by the map for the shrines, we should be getting close to the next Rift Gate, and I think that's where I'll cut this video. Now, hopefully, once we get done pew-pewing and bang-banging and, you know, all of that, we won't be that far away from the end of the main, like I said it again, the original main campaign, because I have not actually gone through the main original campaign and then gone on to play the DLC many times. Like, I normally get all the way to the end of the base game, and I've done that a few times. Like, I've had a number of characters, at least like 4 or 5, that I've done that with, and other characters, like 3 or 4 on my other account, that, like, I get halfway or 3/4 of the way through the story and then just start playing another game and kind of go, ah, crap, I didn't know what I was doing with my character. And then just don't play them again, because this is one of those games where you kind of need to know what you were doing with your guy, right? But, ah! Wow. Fiends of the Void spill out of the Rift Gate. How novel. Chthonian Vanguard. Yeah. So we're going to start seeing more chthonic enemies. Like I said, this is sort of their time in the sun, and I do like that. That we sort of get to deal with the advanced chthonics, right? And they are deadly. They're not entities you want to be dealing with in close combat if you are a ranged character, that's for sure. Ooh, man. Okay. Be nice to get that frost guy taken care of. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Fantastic. But yeah, I haven't actually gone through the DLC much. How do I get to the... There we go. As you can see, the Corvin Basin thing, I have gone through this exactly once, and I got to about here, if I remember right. I got to whatever part it is where you, like, split off, and you have to start dealing with these. And I just kind of realized, like, oh crap, this is like a whole new campaign. I mean, it's comparable to this, right? Like, to the base campaign. And I have, on exactly one occasion, done the same thing. It was not the same playthrough, actually. Where I got up here... You have to beat the original campaign to go through here, by the way. Like, to get up to, like, to start the Ashes of Malmuth stuff. And I got up here, through here, and if I remember right, I got up to Malmuth. Like, this area right here, and I just went, holy crap, this is like a whole thing. Again, I just had the same reaction both times. Here's our buddy Ulgrim.
Took you long enough. Then I thought I'd have to save the world all by myself.
What's the plan?
The cult of Chthon is too numerous for us to take them head on. But we can sabotage their efforts with a few precise attacks, while our Black Legion friends keep them distracted elsewhere.
What did you have in mind?
It appears that the ritual is being powered by blood harvested at the cult's camps, delivered here in despicable blood wagons. To complicate matters, the constant flow of blood is maintaining a chthonic seal over the entrance to the Tomb of the Watchers. I may be able to breach it with some effort, but there is no way you would be able to follow me through. You will have to disrupt the blood deliveries first. The tomb itself is split into 3 levels, with the bottom floor sealed off behind ancient wards. But if the cult is delivering blood in those quantities, then they must have already broken through them. I'm going to enter the tomb and see if I can disrupt the ritual from inside. In the meantime, you should deal with the blood wagons. When you're finished, join me on the bottom level, just beyond the seal of the Lughorian. With luck, we will stop the cult of Chthon before the Lughorian even moves a tentacled limb.
We will stop the cult. Okay. So, that thing he's talking about, the Lughorian, that's bad. We can't let that come to pass. And you can see the chthonic seal right down there that he was talking about. All red and menacing. And that Tomb of the Watchers is where we gotta go for our next, point into, you know... That's where we gotta go to get into Crab. This is admittedly about where my memory of the game starts fading off, like tapering off. Because I've done this on more than one occasion. But those occasions were like few and far between. Like I said, like maybe 4 characters that I did this with. I can't stress enough that most of my characters that I would play, I would normally get up to... Hold on. The place where I would normally get before I stopped, you saw it on this map, is Fort Icon. It's either Fort Icon or, what is it? Where is it? Sorrow's Bastion or Fort Icon. Those are the places where I normally, like, stop playing whenever and then I just go play something else, or, you know, stuff in life happens and I just don't play the game, and then I come back and my character, it's not that I lose interest, just that my character, I don't remember what the heck I was doing with him, and then I go, and then either start a new character or just go back to playing whatever game I was playing in the meantime. So yeah, I'm not exactly on the up and up at about this point onward as to what exactly is going to happen or how to accomplish the goals that are necessary to be accomplished. I do remember what the final boss is. You can probably imagine, right? But I do remember what the final boss is. That'll never get old, by the way. I know I've said it before, but the shooting a big rifle shot and it just chunks, like, a mass of dudes in a line. Like that. Friggin', what was I calling our, one button man's gun? El Paso? Like... Just chunky salsa. Just delicious, chunky salsa. Well, I don't know about delicious. Delicious in a metaphorical sense. Not in a literal sense. I don't think you want to eat anything any salsa this salsa maker produces. So I guess, given... I did destroy that, right? Yeah, I was gonna say, I guess, given that we could target it, that's the... Yeah, that's the... Destroy the northern, eastern, and western blood wagons. It would help if I learned how to read. Yeah. I just completely, like, visually, I was gonna say visibly, but that's not the right term. I visually zoned out the active quests tab on the right. Like, I just completely did not notice that that was there after a certain point. Gonna have to cut the video here soon again, but hopefully we can get the blood wagons dealt with. And their attendants. Oof. Okay. That worried me for a second. I was worried that something was going to come crawling up from the ground. Was it really just this banister breaking? Yeah, okay. That's really cool. I mean, again, it's I don't have enough good things to say about the game. Just the fact that they added the little... They didn't have to do that, you know. they absolutely did not have to do that. But it's worth it. Like... That's so good. The environmental destruction. Man. I do now wonder if, like... I know our gun is... I mean, look at the freaking thing, right? But I do wonder if a gun... Like ye olde... What is this? A blunderbuss. I do kind of wonder if a ye olde, oh, how were they measured? Wasn't it like 2 pound? Like, measured by pounds? Like, I do wonder if like an 8 pound cannon could really, you know... Not that our guy's holding that. I'm not sure. Like, what kind of weighted ball his, What is this? 40 scrap and 10,000 bits. Okay. I don't think I have that much scrap, but we should sell our stuff, and I should take this opportunity to
Come see what's left of my wares.
I am hitting the sell button, right?
See you around. I'll give you a good price on what I've got left.
Yeah, okay. %34% chaos resistance, but it takes level 52. I'll hang on to that. Oh, that has chaos resistance. Okay. I didn't just sell that, did I? Yes, I did. Okay, I could sell that then. Keep that for now. Sell all this stuff. Just to make room as we go through the rest of this, you know, area. 19% chaos resistance. Okay, we're going to equip that. Put this back here. Alright, I think we're good.
See you around.
And then check up to see on how much scrap we really have. Yeah, we don't have anywhere near enough scrap for that. And I'm not going to use the communal chest, though I'm not sure if there's even anything in it. I'm still not going to do that. Alright. Well, we don't have the 40 scrap, that's fine. Gonna cut here, probably go get something to eat, and then be back in a bit. Refreshed and ready to hopefully take on the rest of the game. And then after that, I'll figure out whether or not after we take on the final boss, assuming that I have that much time today. After that, then figure out if I want to spend time grinding for the Mogdrogan shrine that's locked. This one, in case you forgot. This one right here. With the rovers. Anyway, like I said, be back in a bit.